We were told to prepare ourselves for a huge jump in the cost of living, but that doesn't make it any easier to face the highest inflation rate in 30 years.
The Consumer Price Index today revealed the inflation rate for Kiwi households is at a whopping 6.9%, just shy of the 7% predicted. Political reporter Imogen Wells has the details.
It's the word dictating what comes out of your back pocket, inflation. And today's latest Consumer Price Index figures reveal it's now the highest it's been in 3 decades, at 6.9%, which basically means what we already knew: everything's more expensive.
Just like buying less stuff I don't need.
Fuel's gone up quite a bit, so we can't really get out and do anything anymore.
I've got little kids, so it's pretty hard to cut out things that they've got to eat.
The average Kiwi household is going backwards. At some point they're going to have to spend less on certain goods and services to make sure that they can afford just the essentials.
The biggest drivers: housing and transport. The price of petrol's ballooned by 32% in the last year. Building a new home costs an extra 18%.
New Zealanders pay more for building materials in a similar way that we pay more for our groceries than many of the countries that we compare ourselves to.
Speaking of groceries, we're paying 18% more for fruit and veg today than we were this time last year, and those growing them are also struggling.
New Zealanders would be shocked to learn just how often we sell our products at a loss just to get some money to go towards contributing to the next crop.
But grocers say they're not reaping the profits. Instead, demand has decreased.
We do make a choice to say, look, we just won't have it in the shop because people will just freak out too much and say, oh, I'm not going to pay that and I'm never coming back to that store.
The Finance Minister continues to blame our inflation situation on overseas pressures, not his own spending.
You're thinking about the kinds of spending that a government might do that would be big enough to really have an impact on inflation. You're thinking about things like the wage subsidy scheme. Is that what people are saying we shouldn't have done?
National suggests he treat next month's budget like Kiwi households are,
which is going through their expenses line by line and saying, what can I afford to do now? What's getting a return? What's having a big difference? And cancel the stuff that's not doing that.
There's no free lunch here. If people are saying that, if the National Party is saying that, what are they going to cut?
Cuts to spending clearly off the table, but a cut to inflation is desperately needed.
OK, Imogen, does anyone have any idea where inflation is going to go next?
Well, Grant Robertson is right. This inflation rate, the highest in a generation, does boil down to offshore pressures, the pandemic, supply chain issues and the war in Ukraine. And those are pressures that aren't going anywhere anytime soon, which is why economists reckon things will get worse before they get better. Brad Olsen reckons we will crack that 7% rate around the middle of this year. So the government will need to pull something out of the bag here to help Kiwis out. At this stage, the opposition is just ready to attack, and things are only going to get worse in that situation as we get closer to budget day.
It certainly seems that way. Thank you very much, Imogen from Parliament.